is in good spirits and in good health. It's certainly been an impossible time to be positive, but all I can say is don't let the fear get a hold of you. Its job is insidious and its goal is to break you down. But comedians, we need you to stay strong and be in community to support one another so that we can come back together stronger and more unified and share our stories with the world. In February, CASC will turn 4 years old. I was thinking it was 3, but it's 4 years. But this movement really began 5 years ago. And it's been a wild journey that we've been on. And what an auspicious time for an association to be born that would represent Canadian comedians. We didn't know at the time just how crucial it was to have our voices heard and to demand a place within our cultural ecosystem. As many of you know, this has been an all-consuming venture. Some weeks this was a full-time job, a job without pay, but one that means it's time for me to move aside and step down as president. It was no longer feasible for me to continue to carry on as president, executive director, spokesperson, and advocate. I'm not leaving CASC, just refocusing on a couple of advocacy issues that I'm passionate about, namely creating and implementing a strategy to export Canadian comedy talent around the world. We were set to begin that work this past June when we were invited in the Creative Industries International Trade Mission to Europe. And it's since been postponed to the spring. We are going to be going, fingers crossed, to Berlin, Stockholm, and Amsterdam. We've already made contacts in those countries with key comedy people to set up tours and to begin to explore opportunities to have our content broadcast in those markets and beyond. This was made possible through the International Trade Branch at the Department of Canadian Heritage, who we've been working closely with over the last several months. Their support and help has been so invaluable. And I'd like to thank Christine Angelo for her guidance and helping us to expand our mission around the world. I know that many of us have an innate distrust of our governments, but there are so many incredible people that we met along the way who really believe in the work that we're doing to have comedy recognized. It's been the lifeline that's kept us going. The most resistance we've experienced has been from within the industry. It's understandable. People fear what they don't know, but our goal has always been from the beginning to elevate Canadian comedy. And we believe that it will only be beneficial for everyone involved. I would just like to share with you some of the things that I've learned over the past several years. Namely that there's always existed this existential threat to Canadian culture, which I guess is why I became so obsessed with it. We've mainly operated on the sidelines in our own country, in a landscape that is dominated by American stories and talent. It is no accident that the largest media empire who we border would invade our space almost in totality. Empires do not have any regard for the culture and territories and history of the lands they occupy. So when artists and comedians are frustrated by the lack of work here, the lack of any meaningful industry, it is by design. Drain the talent here and then eventually charge them a head tax to work in the United States. Canada operates from a different place. It welcomes American talent and foreign talent with open arms, but it has not served its creators well. I have received a deep education in why this weird, distorted Canadian media reality is the way that it is. Incomprehensible to most, offensive to others, and deeply hurtful to its artists. I've read obscure histories about Canada's many failed attempts at asserting sovereignty over its culture, but eventually being steamrolled by American interests. The biggest threat Canada currently faces is with the FANGs, as they are affectionately known. FANGs is the acronym for Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google, an appropriate name for the way in which they crush nations' cultures. When they arrived in the 2010s into Canada, there was no framework to legislate them. So the advertising dollars that used to go to our broadcasters were now going to the FANGs, which saw our broadcasters' budgets shrink. Canada's telecommunications and broadcast regulations were so outdated, they didn't include the internet. And because Stephen Harper was the prime minister at the time, he wasn't certainly going to get involved. So the FANGs waltzed into our country unopposed, free to do as they pleased. Canada recently underwent a broadcast and telecommunications review and has just tabled new legislation called Bill C-10, which aims to create a stronger, more regulated broadcast system. that appears to be very favorable to creators, but it needs to pass. It needs to pass through the House, so fingers crossed. And while foreign entities need to follow rules and pay tax if they want to operate here, our broadcasters need to be held accountable. Because aside from the CBC, no one is really making any Canadian content. I heard a story recently from a comedian who had gone to pitch Rogers, and they told them, we don't want to make any content. This is such a pervasive attitude in our country that our broadcasters most recently just applied to the CRTC to not make any Canadian content this year due to COVID. Does this make any sense to anyone? During the course of this pandemic, I've had the opportunity now to participate in various roundtables with other arts sector groups. And all I can say is we have a long way to go. The level of sophistication with which music, theater, ballet, literature, and opera operate within our country is inspiring, but it's been solidified over decades of hard work and the unrelenting belief that Canadian voices and Canadian art is worthy. A lot of us have been frustrated and angry by the lack of representation and recognition of comedy in Canada, and rightfully so. It sucks, especially when you consider the bias that entities like the Canada Council for the Arts has against comedy. But we comedians have been the missing piece. We never asked to be part of the conversation. Now we are, but we need to get louder. Currently, I'm participating in the Cross-Sectoral Recovery Roundtable. I know, what does that mean? It's basically, various art sector groups who come together to gather information and formulate solutions to problems within Canada's creative sector. One of the biggest problems in the creative sector is representation and diversity. But when it comes to comedy, we just want to be included, period. And fundamentally, Canadian voices need to be paramount to all other voices and stories in our country. It only seems logical. When this COVID crisis first hit in March, CASC began their most crucial lobbying cycle yet. Sorry, I just got distracted there. When the government first announced they would be handing out sector-specific emergency funding, our lobbyists prompted us to engage with the Department of Heritage to lobby for relief for comedians. We provided a very cursory economic impact analysis and income loss for Canadian comedians. We were happy to participate, but really stressed out. Then Minister Stephen Guilbeault made his first announcement of $500 million in May to the arts and culture sector. He didn't acknowledge comedy. We were not pleased. Then in June, we learned that phase 2 of that emergency funding was going to be announced and rolled out. And we asked the Department of Heritage if comedians would be included. We were told that individual comedians would not be included, but comedy training organizations, events, and venues would. So we asked them what they considered a comedy venue, and they in turn asked us for a proposal. So we made a submission and felt hopeful. Then July rolled around, the minister announces phase 2 and does not mention comedy again. By this point, we were all like, what's the matter with this guy? We followed up, asked their offices where comedy could apply, and they said individual comedians and venues do not qualify, as the money was only going to existing recipients. And you can go and check all of the recipients on their websites. So the people who needed it most, comedians and venues, did not qualify. And comedy venues have been shuttering around the country like dominoes. It's sad and heavy. While they acknowledged this wasn't the outcome CASC had been working towards, they were hopeful we could keep working together. They said what's missing is data on the comedy sector, and it's true. In essence, what they're looking for is an economic impact analysis of the economy of comedy in Canada. We have news on that coming shortly from Adam Growe. But I couldn't help but let them know we were beyond disappointed and disheartened, that even during something as debilitating as a pandemic, the minister would fail to acknowledge comedy. It would have been reassuring to know that our country had our back, especially when we had theirs all along. It needed to be said. But CASC found a way to help comedians with the emergency relief fund that we launched on GoFundMe with the help of Derek Forgy, and we distributed over $30,000 in relief to comedians. It was unprecedented, but revealed another gap in our industry, that there is no emergency relief aid for comedians in times of need. And and there is light at the end of the tunnel, because we were invited to an exclusive roundtable with the Minister of Heritage at the beginning of September. We've been asking for a meeting with him for years, but this was great that this happened. So at the round table, I communicated that the current definitions leave comedy out. For example, only not-for-profit venues can receive funding from Canadian Heritage. Most, if not all, comedy venues are set up as for-profit venues. This must be changed. And other people in the round table agreed, and I was so surprised. So it was good news. When that will be changed, we don't know. And so where do we go from here? Where does CASC go? We go into 2020 with a stronger association and more robust lobby and a new president. It is with great pleasure that I announce Monty Scott as our new president. Monty has been with CASC from the beginning and serves as the current treasurer. I still remember him saying to me outside of the Rivoli 5 years ago, after I wrote my open letter to the Prime Minister that launched this whole business, that whatever help I needed, he would be there. And he has. Monty is one of the best people I've ever met, and I'm thrilled that he will now serve as CASC president. It's time we start the meeting, and I'm going to hand it over to Monty, but I just, I wanted to, give some thanks to some special people who've started this journey with me. Monty Scott, Frank Spadone, Barry Taylor, and Adam Growe, and the late Sandra Carusi. This original team, along with the invaluable work from Joanne Britton and the Mobs Press, got the ball rolling. I'd like to thank the current executive, Monty Scott, Paul Sneps, Charlie Demaris, Drew Picklick, and Daryl Purvis. It has been an honor to serve on the board with you. And it was definitely a lifeline during the pandemic, getting together on Zoom and watching Charlie make his, incredible shakes. So if you're ever in Vancouver, hit him up. I'd also like to extend a special thanks to Chris Gray and Don Moores at Temple Scott Associates, the first lobbyists we hired, and now Tara Mazurk and Sean Casey at Global Public Affairs, who have guided us so intelligently and opened so many doors for us. I'd like to give a very special shout out as well to Zach Layton, a music industry lobbyist who's been so incredibly generous with his time to consult with us and set us up for success. Also, thank you to Damian Nelson for providing communications and public relations services to us. We are very grateful for your insights and words. And lastly, I'd like to thank our ambassadors, the membership, and members of the comedy community for entrusting myself and this executive to represent you. This has not been an easy journey, to say the very least, but any movement that seeks to demand the rights of precarious workers, to rattle the status quo, will be met with opposition. This is our labor, our art. It deserves a place at the table. It needs you to continue to grow now more than ever. I may have started it, but it's not mine. It's all of ours. Keep up the fight, and may there be peace in this land. Over to you, Monty.
That's right. I told Sandra she's out. I'm in. But seriously, my first act as president would be to ask each of you, whether you're at an amphitheater watching this or the ACC or just at home, please join me in giving Sandra Battellini a slow clap for all she's done to start CASC. I don't know if you're supposed to speed up or whatever. Do to taste. But what I would say, I wanted to say with Sandra, I've really, first of all, it's a huge honor to take on being president of CASC, and I wanted to thank Sandra, and every one of us in the comedy community owes Sandra a real debt of gratitude, because I did say, Sandra, listen, I'm more than willing to help you do this, but frankly, I thought she was bluffing. And, as it went along, Sandra's, tenacity and bravery and insight made CASC possible. It truly wouldn't have happened without her. And, we really do all owe a debt of gratitude to her for putting this together, because, like I say, I thought she was bluffing. I didn't think I was going to have to do anything. And, here we are today. This is what happens when a tenacious person puts their mind to something with, like I say, great insight. I've been very proud to be a part of CASC, because I think it's been hugely important, for the comedy community. One of our biggest obstacles came immediately with the takeover of the radio station. And the truth is that one of the main reasons we were important to help was that, Sandra and the cast board had the insight to put cast together just so there'd be someone to speak to. Because were we not there, it's not that we did so much, it's that we were your voice to speak to. Otherwise, who are they going to speak to? They're going to go out in the street and ask people if they're funny or something and ask their opinion on things. Um, we were necessary because we're your voice. And to me, this has always been the most important part of CASC, at least in my impression, is always being a unified voice to be spoken to. And that's one of the reasons that we've constantly get overlooked and generally exploited, is that there's never been anyone to answer to. When you don't have anyone to answer to, it's very easy to get railroaded, or not even that. Railroad has tracks. Basically, you're just in a field, and farmers will do whatever they want to fields. So the idea that we're here is, I think it's one of the most important things. And for me, being president, going forward, my main goal is to make this organization as strong as possible. I want everybody who's, a CASC member but not a paid member to be a paid member, because that little bit of money gives us all more power. Because people a lot of times ask, what are we doing on the board to help comedians? Like, it's not we're you. We are your voice, and it just takes a little bit to make us all stronger. And once we're stronger, people, all of a sudden, you'll find that things get a little bit easier for all of us. Because again, we're all in the same boat, and maybe one of these days, hopefully, one of these days, you'll be in the same position as myself or on the board to move this organization forward. One of the things that was a blessing and also difficult, I'm sure, for Sandra, is that so much focus has been on her this whole time regarding CASC. What's Sandra doing? It's a natural thing when you're the founder of something to have all the focus on you. One of the things I'm going to work on for the time that I'm president is trying to make this less personal. Not because I want to be so far out of the spotlight or to be aside, is because I want this to just be an organization that operates in perpetuity for us. I want to be able to step down from CASC at a point and say with confidence that this will continue for as long as I'm in comedy, or as long as I'm alive, or as long as, we're all moving around that sun. That is my main goal for this organization, is that we'll always have an organization and we'll always have a voice. So, the idea that, there can only be one Sandra Battellini. And now that she stepped down from being president, moving forward, we're going to have an executive that I hope everybody who's in this audience knows that you can step up and be a part of this, because it's for you. It's not some sort of project we're working on our own. One of the more disappointing things being involved in CASC is the amount of various flack that Sandra would take, mostly from the idea that there's some sort of agenda. There wasn't one day I spent in CASC that our agenda wasn't the best interest and what would serve every comic the best, to help you, but to help us, because that's what we've been working for. I mean, partially I've been working in CASC to help all of you, but it's to help me. We're one thing. And so if there's hopefully my being president will be a stronger association, and everybody will know that's in our community that this is for you. It's not for anybody but you. So you can always be a part of this. And hopefully many more people, we would like more people to step up to be a part of it right now. So if you're sitting around thinking, well, we should be doing this, remember, it's not we, it's you. Come step forward and tell us what you think, be a part of it. and help us mold this into the future. So a lot of things I've been proud of being part of CASC. Um, we raised $32,000 for COVID relief for comics, which um, I couldn't believe. I didn't expect. Derek Forgy did a great job. We had numerous people working. Sandra was instrumental in it. We had numerous people. Joanna Britton putting it all together. Numerous people putting this together. $32,000 for comics, and I'm really proud of that. Even though, in fairness, I'm riding their coattails on that because I didn't have as much to do with it nearly as everybody else. So that's fantastic. The idea that we have now, buddy Brian O'Gorman was saying, yelling at one of our meetings, like, I just want dental. Well, now we have dental, thanks to ACTRA being part of ACTRA's group plan. We have an opportunity that our members can have health benefits, and I think that's huge, especially if you need dental. If you don't have teeth, not that big a deal, I suppose. But primarily, if you have teeth and you need dental, huge. So I'm very happy for that. And of course, as I said, always my main goal in CASC is being a voice for the comic. And I think it's probably our most important role is to be a voice for, amazingly, even though we have microphones, up until now, the unheard. So I'll also let you know that this will probably be the last time I address you when I'm not in army fatigues. I said I would hold off just now for Sandra's sake. But from now on, probably army fatigues, we'll see. I'm still working with a tailor. But I just wanted to say I'm excited. I am very proud to be a part of this from the beginning. I'm very proud to be now president, and look forward to the next year. So take it away, guys. That's all I've got to say. My pistol is missing. I was going to shoot that to end my little speech, but it is gone, unfortunately.
Thank you so much, Monty. That was so amazing, and thank you for those kind words. You're the best. As Monty was saying, it's true. This organization is for all of us. So now that I've stepped aside, there are two openings now on the board for secretary and treasurer, as Monty was the treasurer. So if you're interested, please email info@canadianstandup.ca or email any one of the exec and get involved. And also, the way that CASC works, we've said this countless times, that if you have an issue or if there's something that you want to see happen, you can create a committee around it. You just have to pitch it to us, and then we will do our best to support you. We've done that with so many people. We did that with Scott Falconbridge, who helped push through the health benefits through. And we also did that with Ali Pierce when she helped us to do a fundraiser. And so there's so many instances of that, and we just want to keep that part of the organization robust. The stronger we are, it is going to be the result of us coming together. And to that point, we are now looking for what 2021. What we're looking towards in 2021 is to hire an executive director. And because we are at the point, CASC is at the point where we need to have paid people on staff. When I sit around these round tables, that in the last year, I'm sitting around people whose job it is to be at that round table, who they get paid to do that job. And I was doing that job, as a volunteer. And of course, it's logical. This is how organizations grow. But we really need an executive director to be able to manage the organization, to be able to attend meetings, to do this very important work, so that the board can be left to, meeting and passing decisions and doing that kind of stuff. And also, to be able to retain people like Damian Nelson and Joanne Britton, services like social media and public relations and communications and legal services. We we are at the point, which is it's really great that CASC is at the point. We're at this growth point where we need to hire people, and currently we don't have a lot of money. I mean, we obviously recognize we are in the middle of a pandemic, but you know, if right now we have about 1,000 members, of which I don't know, maybe 150 are paid. So what we're asking, if 600 people, 600 current members pay $50, we will have enough money to hire an executive director, which is crucial in this next phase. It's absolutely crucial. So that's one part of it. But if there are any benefactors out there or anyone who is feeling generous, please, please, please donate to CASC. We've really never asked for money, but this time we are. I think that in the last 5 years, we have definitely really gone to bat for the community, and we need your help now so that we can bring the organization to the next level. And just so you know, Drew Picklick, who is also on our exec, I don't know if he's able to attend tonight, but he is our fundraising coordinator, and he is working on trying to get more money into the organization to do just that. So yeah, I think that's it for now. I'm going to pass it over to Charlie Damaris. I hope he has a shake that he's going to show us.
Hello, everybody. It's past smoothie time here in Vancouver. I am addressing you where I am 3 hours behind you in terms of this evening, and about 1 week behind you in terms of COVID horror. I want to begin by thanking Sandra for all of the work she's done on this portfolio and for bringing me into this organization. Sandra and I met a couple of summers ago, and it's just been such an honor and such a treat working with her, and I'm just in awe of what she's done with this organization. And yeah, my thanks to her. And I'll remind you all that there was a time in this country where they told us that an Italian would never be elected mayor of comedy. And so I think it's a tribute not only to Sandra's hard work and dedication, but also to those brave men and women who arrived on these shores with nothing but a dream and, you know, their 7-minute showcase sets. And men and women, how come it's so different? I will, though, say Sandra has still not conceded to Monty, so we don't actually know which way this is going to go. And thank you, of course, as well to Adam, who is here with us this evening. I want to as well, Sandra mentioned them, but Joanne and Damien, who are just absolutely critical to the work that gets done by CASC. And there are just no two more dedicated friends that the comedy community has in this country. And so we're very, very lucky. So I did want to say that. But I'm also very excited to be moving forward with Monty at the helm. And I think that knowing that we're moving into a new time, and so as Sandra, the last of the sort of founding personalities of CASC in terms of the public face of the organization, the identifiable face of the organization, is moving on from her first role. It's maybe fitting that we sort of move into our second chapter as an organization. And we do so at a time that is obviously very critical in the world of Canadian comedy. We all know the unspoken agreement that we sort of enter into doing comedy in Canada. which is that 2 or 3 of us in any generation will be lucky enough to hit it in the country, and we get to stay home and live a life of economic dignity and do our work and just get to be comedians in the country where we were born and raised. The vast majority of us will do comedy sort of when we can squeeze it in because we love it, because it's the thing that drives us, because it's the thing that we were born to do, and we will slot it in alongside whatever part-time jobs need to be done to get the rent paid, to get groceries in the cupboards. And then in the middle between those two options have historically been these two safety valves, the United States and the United Kingdom. And what's been happening over the last few years, not only with COVID, but certainly exacerbated by coronavirus, but beginning with the Brexit crisis and deadlock of UK economic and political society, and then the election of Donald Trump, those safety valve options have gotten less and less attractive, more and more unstable. See, the dogs even, there's a feeling in the air. Would you please? It's a German dog. I don't know why she's even angry. I'm saying nothing about her country of origin. What we're seeing in the last few months is the winnowing down of what has always been for Canadian comics, these two places where you could bolt and land and have some hope of making a career. Our options seem to be narrowing once more again to trying to make a career in this country. And making a career in this country feels in many ways just as scary and as difficult as it's always been. Over the past couple of weeks, there's been restructuring at the CBC. The person who was in charge of developing sitcoms at the CBC has been laid off. Radio elements are being collapsed into elements from television. It seems clear that the development of comedy is as low on anybody's list of priorities as it's always been, despite all of the wonderful news we heard after Schitt's Creek swept the Emmys, that this was going to be the time of renaissance for Canadian comedy. Across the country, the venues that we depend on to perform in are struggling to stay alive. But it's not all dire news. There is amazing news on vaccines that keeps coming out day after day. The latest news from this morning is that the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine that we heard about last week is not only 90% effective, but 95% effective, not only effective with the general population, but as effective with populations over 65. It's effective across ethnic difference. We keep getting good news about vaccines. We keep getting good news and good signals from the federal and provincial governments about vaccine rollout. It's quite possible that we could be going into a spring and summer festival season that almost looks something like normal for Canadian comedy. The other thing is we're going to be going into a year where there's a hunger for live shows, for the experience of being in a room with other living, breathing human beings and seeing what we do, which is get up on stage and do something that can't be bottled or boxed or recreated, but has to be done in front of you with a bunch of people. And so this could be a real time of renaissance for our industry. And that's why we need to be prepared as an organization to hit the ground running. There's been a lot of conversation so far about paid memberships and the move from unpaid into paid memberships. In fact, what we're going to be doing is a bit more structured than that, which is that over the course of the next 6 months, as we head to the May 1st dues renewal, we'll actually be phasing out the category of unpaid CASC membership. We discussed this as a board, and we just feel that at this point in the life of the organization, it just doesn't make sense for us to have a situation where we have an on-paper membership of close to 1,000 being sustained financially by 15% of its members. The other problem is, and we've discussed this before at general meetings, is that when we sit down with government actors, when we sit down with industrial actors, when we sit down to negotiate, or when we sit down to try and sort out deals where we get insurance or group rental rates or any other benefit that comes from us collecting ourselves together into one group, the numbers that the other party is always interested in aren't the numbers of names we have down as members. It's not the number of email addresses that we have. The number that they're interested in are our number of dues paying members. So not only does the budget increase and our ability to do things like hire an executive director, pay lobbyists, pay the people who are doing the work that keeps this organization running. And I'm not talking about the board. I'm talking about the people who are at this stage either doing work out of the goodness of their heart or doing the work for us at cut rate levels just because they believe in what they're doing for us. Not only does the budget become such that we can engage them on a more consistent basis, but having that paid up membership actually gives us a negotiating power. It makes us an actual voice at the table. We need to make CASC a default organization. By that I mean we need to make it so that it's just assumed if you're headlining a club in Canada on a Friday or Saturday night, you're a CASC member. And what that means is that if a club owner tries to sub out a paid middle spot for 2 unpaid guest spots, they know that they're not just gonna get a pissy Facebook status from some comic. They're not just getting under the skin of a middle or maybe a headliner who takes some interest that weekend. It means that they're pissing off CASC. It means that they're plugged into a network, an actual industrial organization that speaks for comedians across the country. And when I say across the country, I mean across the country in multiple dimensions. The other big priority for us at a membership level is that we're looking to expand CASC geographically. There's obviously an understanding that the comedy community in this country is heavily centered around Toronto. And those numbers are just, they're the facts on the ground. And I think there's an understanding that the industry and the community are heavily centered not only around Toronto, but around Southern Ontario and around Central Canada. But we need for this organization to be truly representative in a way that comics from coast to coast to coast feel as though they're a part of it. And we're making big strides in that way. We've got ambassadors across the country, and we're starting to try and integrate that ambassadorship as a more active component of the life of CASC. But the other way that we're looking to expand is by genre. We're very excited that Paul from Toronto Sketchfest has become an active member of the board. We are looking to make CASC not only an organization where stand-ups feel like their causes are being championed, but also sketch comedians, improv comedians. Joanne's going to say a little bit later on in the meeting, something that I'm very excited about. But French language comics as well. We want to make sure that CASC members and comedians from underrepresented and equity-seeking groups in Canada continue or come to see the organization as a vehicle for driving their struggles for equality and equity forward. So those are our priorities. We're looking to change the landscape in this country in two fundamental ways at the same time. We're looking, one, to create more opportunities for work for Canadian comics, and two, to make sure that those opportunities are better paying, more economically rewarding. Look, they're not going to be artistically rewarding. Let's get that off the table right now. If you wanted to be artistically rewarded, you had a chance to go to poetry school. But listen, I will end on this appeal. In the last 5 years, there have been two absolutely existential threats to Canadian comedy. Two things that could have been extinction events for our industry. In one case, that's not even remotely exaggeration. First, there was the threat to Sirius and our sound exchange payments by the Just for Laughs takeover. Then came the illegalization of crowds. And I want you to, think we're coming into the home stretch here of this pandemic. But this has been, there are no words for what a challenge this year has been for us. I've been on stage 10 fucking times this year. So many of us are in that same position. This has been an absolute, an absolutely cataclysmic, devastating year. CASC was there for our community. We collected and helped collect and distributed tens of thousands of relief dollars to the Canadian comedy community. We were there when Sirius was threatened as the first decent and dependable income stream outside of the clubs to come along in years, and CASC was there to defend it. This organization has twice proved itself as being absolutely integral and vital to the well-being of our community in our working lives and our artistic lives. We're comedians, so we know things coming through. So fuck, I can't even imagine what's coming on the horizon. We need CASC to be healthy and organizationally sound moving forward as we move out of the realm of this being the project of the people who initially got it going. We're getting going as an organization. We need your help to do it. Make sure that your friends are signed up as paid up CASC members. If you are currently an unpaid member, get ready for that to phase in over the next 6 months. Thank you so much. And I'll turn it back over to, I believe, Daryl.
Oh, hi. Thanks, Charlie. My part's going to be way shorter than everybody else's. So I guess I can describe the pictures behind me if you want, if it goes a little too short. But I'm going to be here a couple times. So this is the first time I'm just talking about, Charlie briefly talked about it. One of the things I've been working on is Perkopolis is now at the start in the beginning of the year, all the paid members of CASC will now be able to use Perkopolis, which is a discount program. So basically you get discounts on like car rentals, hotels, electronics. I think we get a discount when the vaccine comes out, if that's, I think that's true. It's just to make it, explain how beneficial this is. My wife, one of our organizations, they're members of Perkopolis, so I kind of steal her membership sometimes. And I'll tell you right now, honestly, a car rental for a weekend, it'll be more than enough to cover your CASC membership. It's really worth your while. We're doing so much. I wish I could show you my inbox, how many emails I get in a week, how much work we're doing, and it's exhausting and it's worth it. But we need your help. And honestly, take advantage of a membership and take advantage of Perkopolis in the new year. It's going to make things a lot cheaper for you. You're going to love it. I feel like I'm a salesman now, and I hate that. But yeah, that's really all I have to say for now. I'm going to be back in a few minutes to talk about something else. Before I go, I want to say thank you to Sandra for everything she's done and continues to do. And Monty, I'm so excited to see you in your army fatigues. This is a day I've been dreaming about for 15 years since I met you. So excited. But I guess I'm going to turn it back over to Charlie now, I believe. That was it, guys. If you want to know about the pictures behind me, there's a question and answer portion at the end of everything, and I can explain everything. But now here's Charlie.
Hey, I accidentally said what I was supposed to say now in the first thing that I said. So that's why the first thing that I said was so long, because it was the two things I was supposed to say. So let me just take this opportunity to declare my loyalty to Monty, and pass it over to the man himself. You know him, you love him, Mr. Adam Growe.
His loyalties already. It's pretty intense. I've been listening to this whole CASC town hall, and I gotta admit, I did not have Monty in my president's pick pool. It's not like he's not a good choice. He went ahead in the draft before I could select him. I'd even met Monty Scott before CASC, and next thing you know, we're going on road trips and gigging together to Ottawa to advocate with politicians, unpaid gig. In fact, for a while we were out of pocket for many months. And Sandra, I can't imagine a better person. One of the best exports this country has, to be heading up initiatives to get that global export going for Canadian comedians. So look, I have to tell you, I'm about to talk about CANCOM, the Foundation for Canadian Comedy, and this historic study that we've been working on for months. It's been extended because of COVID, and it's about 2 weeks away from being finally completed. CANCOM and this historic study would not be here without CASC and its members, so thank you. And of course, CASC would not be a thing without Sandra. So we're all indebted to you. And, look, I've been working on CANCOM since last March, since I stepped down from CASC board. So you can trust that Sandra is going to be busy for our community still, even if she's not the president. And I am very much also in support of Monty's new position and all of the current executive board members, and Damien and Joe and then the other team members who have been putting in as much as they have since the very beginning. So I had mentioned this study at the last CASC town hall many months ago, and so much time has passed. I wanted to have another update because we're really close to sharing the results. And if you aren't familiar with CANCOM, it is a relatively new not-for-profit organization that is designed to stream funding directly to independent Canadian comedy artists. There's no funding there right now, but this study was a huge win for Canadian comedians in terms of giving us momentum to get that funding stream activated. So unlike CASC, which is about advocacy and politics, CANCOM is that foundation, that pathway that you as members can support through CASC to get that funding for. And this study, why it was such a big win was because of the fact that we are often excluded even from analysis. And because CANCOM focuses on creating content, and this is content that you will be creating at whatever stage you're in your career, including produced media, as well as preparing for live performance and touring. And so this was a little bit of an obstacle because the funding for this program was primarily from a program that's focused on produced media. So we had to have many conversations to convince the funders that live performance is part of the value chain. And to their credit, it's Ontario Creates, through their business intelligence program, they said, okay, you've made a good argument. Let's take a closer look. And so the final report will be announced in early December. I don't have a specific date right now. We just have to wait for a couple more things. So keep your eye out for that. But I want to tell you that there's 3 reasons you should be really encouraged about the results in this report. And I've seen them all. I've seen everything. I know it all, but we can't go public yet. It just has to, there's approvals and stuff, but it's really exciting. The three main reasons that you should be really encouraged, and these findings are outlined in detail. It's a comedy content creator profile that was funded through Ontario Creates through the Business Intelligence Program. And while the findings don't necessarily represent the views of Ontario Creates, the program is designed to support the creation of produced media. Hello, this is important to us, right? And with this study, there's a specific focus on looking at loss of opportunities to develop comedy talent and help ensure there is job retention in this province of Ontario, which extends, hold on for it, across the country. So the first reason is just that. The first reason that you should be really encouraged by the findings is that even though it's focused on Ontario comedy creators because it's funded by Ontario Creates, much of the findings are reflective of views of comedians across the country because many or all of the people who participated in the survey and the interviews were drawing from their experiences as professionals and their careers that extend outside of Ontario and across Canada and beyond. And you will find when you read and hear about the findings that they are very much reflective of what you might be experiencing in whatever province or territory in which you live and work. Not everything. There's unique things from the territories and provinces across the country and unique challenges and opportunities, but you'll find a lot of it is very relatable. So that's one reason. The second reason you should be really encouraged by the findings of this result is that you'll hear and read a lot of stuff that you'll react to like, yeah, tell me something I don't know about the challenges and opportunities in my career. Like, yeah, well, that reaction is crucial to have formally documented. And I know from many conversations I had formerly on the CASC board and continue to have on the board for CANCOM, and everybody will agree with this, and when we're meeting with industry stakeholders, the industry and government officials, a reaction that's very common is, oh, wow, you know, that's I had no idea that those were the experiences that Canadian comedians were having and the challenges and unique opportunities that were missing and leaving money at the table. I mean, you know, these are really interesting stories. And you know what would be great is if you had, in additional to these anecdotal evidential stories, which are great, I love the stories, it's heartbreaking, but really interesting, is if you also had some data, because the data will fuel some change. Well, this is data on exactly the things that you know and you've been living and breathing. So some of it's not going to be surprising. So, but important to have independently studied by an independent consulting firm, Nordicity, who spearheaded this whole thing from the very beginning, survey and interviews. So that's the second reason. And that also has to do with your reaction that you might have, not only about the inequities that comedians and comedy artists are feeling in the Canadian domestic and international cultural sectors, but also with regards to serious concerns about discrimination and intersectional inequities within our own industry community. So those not so surprising things are also evidenced in this study, as well as response in terms of how comedy creators felt about the economic responses to COVID-19. Because as this got extended, the study was being conducted as BLM was a very loud and proud movement, as well as the pandemic. So the third and final reason that you should be really encouraged by the results is that in addition to what you might expect, there are some surprising results. And these findings help build momentum within and across our industry to foster collaboration for change with other stakeholders in the industry. And this will help Canadian comedy content creators, not just Ontario comedy content creators, but specifically because the focus is on Ontario, into produced media and job retention to overcome barriers. And it's also about exploring the opportunities that are being left at the table. What are the top opportunities for comedy content creators? So CANCOM has been established for the very reason that you've been hearing multiple reasons in this town hall so far. It's not to replace or duplicate any other funding streams or organizations for artists or creators across Canada. Sorry, I apologize about that. I have a family Zoom coming up. This is our life right now. It's not, at least it's not a German dog barking in the background. So CANCOM is focused on making that data work for us in a way that not only is a pathway for overcoming obstacles, but capitalizing on opportunities that are being left on the table. And three main highlights that CANCOM is looking to address are structured pathways to increase public investment in developing, promoting, and exporting Canadian comedy artists on the global digital media market, an increase in the profile of Canadian comedy artists here in Canada and around the world, and an increase in spending on a larger volume of Canadian comedy content by broadcasters and streaming services. So, look, you might say, well, the timing's not great for you right now for CANCOM because everybody's pulling back on all of that. Well, this is a long con. This is not a short-term gain. And I was part of those conversations that Sandra was talking about and other independent conversations with federal and provincial ministers of culture and heritage. And it's a long conversation. And we need a formal, structured foundation that is in place, that is recognized as a place where that funding, or those resources, can go directly into the hands of independent comedy artists for the creation of their content, and to also encourage and increase their participation in owning their IP. Not necessarily exclusively, whether it be in partnerships, but more of a share of ownership of that. And that's what CANCOM stands for. And the objectives of what CANCOM stands for nationally are reflected in this provincial study. And you will see those in the results. And with the help of the data, this will help CANCOM fuel a larger pool of exceptional talent that is going to receive over the long term equitable funding and profile opportunities in Canada and abroad, and even more competitive opportunities to make Canada even better on the global market when it comes to comedy. So I want to thank you for participating. If you had a chance to do that survey in the summer, that's fantastic. The study happened because of, as I mentioned already, CASC and you as a member, but also because of the initiative of Nordicity, the independent consulting firm. They conducted the survey and interviews, and they control all the data. I just kind of facilitate and will bring those results to you. The funding from Ontario Creates, at the same time, had to be supported by additional sponsors. It wouldn't have happened. It's part of the budget approval process. And the additional sponsors that came to the table to make this study happen include ACTRA Toronto, Just for Laughs, Project 10 Productions, Andrew Barnsley Productions, and SOCAN, a really new partner, SOCAN, not to the landscape in general, but to supporting comedians. So the exact date of the live final report launch will be announced soon. I can't give you a specific date. I'm waiting for a couple of more approvals, but look for it in the CASC feeds in social and on CANCOM's Instagram page or LinkedIn page if you happen to be on LinkedIn. So those announcements will be coming soon. I'm really excited about it. And again, thank you, CASC and its members, for the support.
I guess with that, that's my turn. Thank you, Adam. So what's up, everyone? I'm Joe. If you don't know me, I do for CASC what these people have been thanking me for, and I thank you so much. It's been making me cry. I've been helping them with websites and social media and just connecting and getting CASC out there as a brand and an entity as itself. You don't know, I'm originally from Montreal. Go Habs go. So the French culture is very deeply a part of me. So it's why I was very excited when we started with CASC that Louise Richer, la directrice générale de l'École nationale de l'humour, she reached out to CASC and wanted to combine her forces with us so we can get our common goal accomplished, just to get as an art form. And because of her 30 plus years and dedication, hard work, outspoken advocacy to this cause, she's able this year to say that comedy has been recognized as an art form in Quebec as, let me get this right, as an exploratory year, which should end with an official declaration at the end. So basically, if you're in Quebec and you're a comedian, you can apply for a grant as a comedian, and by the end of over a year, they're going to conclude that yes, there's comedians and that they should be funded and it should be recognized as an art form. So with that news, I want to happily and proudly announce that CASC is going to go national. And we're going to go Association Canadienne des Professionnels de l'Humour. And bringing in a French committee that's going to combine forces and combine both parties so that we can bring the English industry and the French industry of comedy together, and hopefully change history of comedy in Canada once and for all, because it's just ridiculous. So I'm very happy and proud to be a part of this committee. I have Derek Seguin, who's the ambassador of Quebec on this committee. I have Christelle Paré, who's a teacher at Université de Ottawa, also has been a teacher at École Nationale de l'Humour. Very smart gal, so happy to work with her. And inviting anybody from the French side and committee who wants to work with this committee, who wants to bring their knowledge and basically join forces with us. Et je fais un appel à mes frères et sœurs humoristes au Québec et partout au Canada pour venir joindre le ACPH, devenez membre payant, puis aidez-nous à faire que l'humour soit reconnu partout au Canada. Merci. Et avec cela, je vais passer le mic à Paul.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Paul Snep. Why are you muting me? Unmute me, Joe. Hi. Hi, everybody. It's been a fun year. This is my first year working with the group at CASC. I want to just join the chorus of applause for Sandra for all the work that she's put into getting this thing off the ground. Believe me when I tell you this. Sandra is awesome. She is a force to be reckoned with. And honestly, her passion and her drive are the engine behind this thing. So my appeal right off the top is, if you're out there and you've got the guts and determination to get involved in a bit of a fight, get in here. And we need your enthusiasm, and we need your support. We need your brains. We need your ideas. I'm thrilled to hear the news about Quebec recognizing comedy as art. It's really the thing that most attracted me to working with CASC in the first place. Since 2005, the Toronto Sketch Fest has been working and with a great deal of success to attract public funding to comedy. We've been successful at 3 levels of government doing that: municipally, through the Toronto Arts Council, provincially through the Ontario Arts Council, and through tourism and heritage, and then on the national level through the Canadian Heritage's Canada Arts Presentation Funds. We've had great success there, and we're not a common story in our landscape. And so one of the things I wanted to bring to this group was my experience in this regard. And adopt a little bit of CASC's attitude as well. The way that we've had that success that we have had is that we have spoken somebody else's language. We've presented comedy as theater. We have positioned comedy as tourism. And always shape-shifting every step of the way, mischaracterizing to some degree, mischaracterizing what comedy is. And that's got to change. We're so proud of our exports. So many parallels exist today that existed in the 1960s and 70s when a lot of Canadian content regulations were born. I won't rabbit hole on that, but suffice to say, this is my passion piece with CASC. If I leave this board with comedy having been officially acknowledged and recognized as an art form by the Canada Council, I will I will sleep well. That will be my job. So here's the thing. In 2016, a commitment was made by the federal government to double the budget of the Canada Council by 2021. So in the ensuing years, that budget has indeed been increasing, and new monies have found their way into the hands of artists to support their work. But none of them, not one of them, has been a comedian. That's because comedy is not recognized as an art by our nation's Arts Council, and it has to change. This spring, $500 million, an equivalent amount to the budget doubling amount, was dispensed to Canadian Heritage and the Canada Council together in COVID support to arts and culture industries. Now, some comedy industries, some comedy organizations benefited from this pool of money, very few, but no artists did. And again, this is because the Canada Council has a gatekeeping system that says comedy is not art. If you dare shapeshift yourself and try to pass yourself off as a theater artist, you will be adjudicated by Dora Award winners and the like. This is wrong. It's got to change. And so over the last 6 months, we've had 2 opportunities to present policy recommendations. I was pleased to take that on and write those recommendations. And let's hope something comes of them. Chief among them, I'll give you just the broad points. I submitted a proposal to Canadian Heritage to, in year 1, provide $17 million of funding to the comedy sector in the following ways: $5 million to artists and organizations, $10 million to recovery for comedy venues and training centers. They're key to our sector, and almost exclusively they are for-profit businesses. But they are the homes of comedy. They're where we ply our trade, and they're where we learn. And it's a shame that we are outliers in this way. Needs to be supported. Year 2 and ongoing, $11 million for ongoing support. Oh, sorry. And there was also $2 million in there to go into CANCOM to support initiatives supporting broadcast and streaming. I'll move faster, guys. Sorry. But chief among all of this is really the very central idea that comedy must be recognized as an art form on its own, independent from theater, literature, and the like. And with that comes 3 things. 1, that programs must be developed at Canada Council that support comedy and comedy creation and comedy artists. 2, that these programs are developed inside of its own frame of reference, meaning that it's not adjudicated or thought about in the context of theater, in the context of literature. It has to be on its own. And finally, to populate the adjudication process with experienced comedy artists and professionals ongoing. So these are the things I'd like to accomplish, and these are a couple of the recommendations, policy recommendations I drafted this year. So I'm excited to see those go forward. We're going to try and arrange some meetings with the Canada Council again to keep banging on this door, but we need you. We need you comedians out there to get onto the Canada Council's portal, register yourselves, and start hammering those application gateways. And when you are met with rejection, which you will be, demand answers. That's how we make change happen. The other initiative I have been working on at CASC is I've been working along with Daryl, who I'll throw this to next, on a publicity campaign around this idea. And so what we did is we reached out to some friends in the comedy community for some favors to put together a promotional campaign that simply tells the basic story that Canada does not recognize comedy as art. So I'm going to bid you adieu and hand it back over to Daryl. So get out there, support CASC, become a member, be a paid member.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, so as Paul's mentioning, basically what he's talking about at the very end there is a while back, I kind of had an idea, seeing as comedy isn't recognized as an art, that we need to use that in our favor. And so I came up with a concept that a bunch of comedians saying the same thing over and over again: Canada doesn't recognize me. Canada doesn't recognize me. And with the help of Paul and Scott McMahon, who has done so much work on this, we're starting to get the videos together now. We're going to start releasing them in the next little while, and we really need you guys to help spread them and to help with the call to action, to contact your MPs, your MPPs, your MLAs, whatever it takes. Like, we need to make this happen. We need to start getting this funding. We can see right now COVID has just decimated our industry, and it didn't have to be this bad. We should have been getting this money. So I think right now we're going to look at the first one. There's going to be more. I know some of you have been asked to send us in videos, and we appreciate it. so much, and others you'll probably be asked at some point, because we're going to keep doing this until we need to, or until Scott McMahon says, fuck that, I'm not making any more of these. But yeah, I think this will be the first one, or at least a version of the first one. Joe, are we ready with that? Maybe?
Canada doesn't recognize me.
Canada does not recognize me.
Canada doesn't recognize me.
Canada does not recognize me.
Canada doesn't recognize me.
Canada doesn't recognize me.
Canada doesn't recognize me.
Canada does not recognize me.
Canada doesn't recognize me.
Canada doesn't recognize me. Comedy is an art.
Canada doesn't recognize me.
Canada doesn't recognize me.
Canada doesn't recognize me.
Canada doesn't recognize me. Go figure.
Did you know the Canadian government doesn't recognize comedy as an art form? This means comedians you recognize, as well as thousands you don't, are left out of crucial funding. This has to change. Hashtag comedy is art.
Do the right thing, Canada. Let's get those comedians on the government tit.
And there you go. So we need to get this out. We need to make changes, guys. This has been going on for too long. We're better than this, and we deserve better than this. So thank you to everybody, and thank you, Paul, for helping, and Scott, who may or may not be watching right now. Thank you for everything. And I guess I'll turn it over to everybody for a Q&A.
Yeah. Where are we getting the questions from? Yeah, so if anybody's listening.
We could warm up with our own questions for each other.
Yeah. What, you got one, Monty?
Oh, what now, Sandra? Are you surfing? What's going to go on?
Oh, God. Todd Van Allen. Question for Quebec members. Is Francois Perouse a hugely popular artist? For months, his albums have monopolized the entire top 10 of the iTunes comedy charts in Canada. If any changes happen in the top 10 over the course of the day, his albums suddenly take over the top 10 again. It seems like he's gaming the system so that his catalog is the top 10, thus making the charts inaccurate. Just wondering if it is possible that he's truly that popular. I guess that's not a question for us. I don't know. If there's any Quebec members out there.
Joe might know.
I have no idea.
I'll have to ask my lifeline, Derek Seguin, if he knows that answer.
Okay.
We could be getting potentially into potentially getting into libel waters here in terms of weighing in officially on whether this is a system gaming situation. I don't know if CASC has an official policy position on.
Probably not on the fly with no idea. I'm like, hey, hang on, let me take this one.
Yeah, we don't have official. Monty, you were asking me if I'm going surfing?
Yeah, obviously you're going to remain on with cat. Yeah, I was just like, what are your plans?
Well, you know what? I mean, I've been feeling an incredible sense of freedom, so that's pretty interesting. And I've just been writing so much, completing, screenplays that I started, developing more ideas that I've, concepts. It's cool to be back creating more.
I bet. I don't think people really realize how consuming this has been for you to be a part of this, to be the impetus behind this.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was like full-time job over here. Should CASC have provincial reps? Yeah, we do actually, Florence. We have Derek Seguin as a Quebec rep. If you go on our website, CanadianStandUp.ca, under the About, you'll see under Teams all our ambassadors. But Florence, if you'd like to join Derek, please reach out to us or him, and you can work on that committee as well. How much will you make, and can non-performers be involved? Yearly membership is $50, and you do need to be a performer, a comedian, to be a member, but you can be involved in the organization. We've had several people who are not comedians volunteer and be involved with CASC. And
you can donate.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. You can definitely donate. Yeah.
Looking to all you firemen out there or whatever.
So if you like, if anybody wants to get, again, the email address go to is info@canadianstandup.ca. If you want to get involved, if you have something that you want to, put through, or an idea, please email that address, and then it gets to the board, and and we pump it up. So are we done with questions? I guess nobody has any more questions.
Well, I guess our town hall was definitive. We answered all the questions in our.
Yeah, it was pretty. You
monologues.
guys were amazing. That was an amazing. I mean, I know maybe it's too early to say, but. And thank you for all your kind words. Like, honestly, it was very moving.
Oh, couldn't be more well deserved.
No more questions.
Barry had a question there.
Who did?
Yeah.
Barry Taylor, about how to share the video. That's going to come out. Well, I'll hand that over to Joe. Joe can tell us.
Florence had one before that too.
Are these questions coming through on Facebook?
Under comments.
Yeah, I'm looking at the comments. I didn't see Barry's, but yes, the video I'll be able to upload to YouTube, and I'm gonna post that on social media. So
Barry asked how do we share the video?
Sorry?
Barry asked how we share the video.
When this is
share the
finished?
video? It's not officially out yet. It will be out in the next few days. I think one of the things we agreed with for everybody that's in the video is we'd show it to them first before we released it. So we should do that, and then we'll start, but very soon.
Yeah, it's great.
It'll definitely be a social media post with it.
Was the video? Yeah.
And if you're out there watching and you participated, thank you again so much for participating in this. I know it's been a while. We solicited these recordings I think it was back in June. We started asking around. Other priorities took precedent, and so we sort of shelved it for a bit. But this is a very opportune time to be going out with some public messaging. Right now, policy is being formulated by Canada Council, and their new strategic plan process. Their window just closed for public input. So this is a really good moment to be rattling cages and drawing attention to this super important fact. So again, thanks to everybody who supplied clips. And if you're out there and you want to supply one, please do. Same email address, I guess, info@Canada or what is it, CanadianStandUp.ca.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of. Did you say something, Charlie?
Sorry, I was just speaking to Derek's point in the comments and about just like a meme to share to get people to pay up and stuff like that. So there were some. I made a little video around the time of the as everybody knows, we held off the dues this year until September because everybody was hit so hard by the pandemic, and a lot of professional arts organizations did that with their dues this year. But one thing we realized was most people are on the automatic renewal. So what we're realizing is that mostly it's going to be through prompting people who are currently unpaid members through emails, letting them know that that category is going to be phased out. That will be how we let them know, over the coming 6 months, make sure to switch over to a paid membership. And then we'll also be creating shareable memes and recruitment stuff, because we do need to make sure that everybody every comedian in the country should be ideally joining up. And then to Florence's question about who if you're working as a comedian, we're not, CASC is not a place where we're trying to enforce pecking orders of guest spots, middles, headliners. If you're working as a comedian and you're doing stage time and you're willing to pay your membership dues and be part of the life of the organization, then you're welcome to do that. And we'd love to have you.
We had that Chris Kinsbury, a question from Chris about a QR code. I know that's definitely a joke question, but
yeah, and I responded in the comments and I say, yeah, for sure, we can create a QR code so you guys can add that to your posters or where you like, so it would link right to the CASC donate. So yeah,
awesome.
Just further on the video that was just shared and what Paul has been saying. Yeah, this is the opportune time. As I mentioned, I was invited to participate in the roundtable with the minister at the beginning of September. And, it was an unprecedented meeting. It was also an exclusive invitation. Not all arts organizations were invited. And so it was really great that comedy was invited. One of the things that, as I mentioned initially, I was like, look, comedy venues don't qualify. And he's like, well, what do you mean, Sandra? I want to know more, because we fund the Comedy Ha stage in Quebec. I don't know if anybody knows the Comedy Ha Festival, but it's sort of like a competitor to Just for Laughs. So I did their festival one year. It's fantastic. But there is a venue in Quebec, and he's like, look, we fund that. And I was like, and then I was like, well, that's one venue. And then I'm like, I know of no other venues that are funded. So it just made me realize too that from his perspective and from people on that side, they might just assume, oh yeah, we do fund comedy, but they don't really know. I mean, we've been doing this now for 4 or 5 years, and it's a major education on all levels, for ourselves, for the public, for government, for industry. Like initially people were like, well, comedy, it's not art. And then I was just like, I got to the point where I'm like, I don't give a shit what people think. As in the words of Julie DeBrusen, who was the MP who helped launch CASC with our petition, she's like, look, the auto industry is supported by, and when you look at the stimulus money that was given to oil during this pandemic, it was something like $30 billion. So, any group of people who have representation in this country, any labor group, it's because of years of lobbying. Like when you look at teachers, that's one of the strongest lobbies there are. So CASC is a lobby, is fundamentally, a lobby group to lobby for comedians' rights, which include recognition. And I know it seems like at first, you don't think of it like, well, of course people know comedy. Canadians are known for comedy, but we're not recognized. We don't have acknowledgement. This is a rights movement. So these are your rights. This is crucial. It's crucial for our country, for us as workers. This is important. These conversations, while might seem futile, and certainly sometimes you're like, yo, how many times I got to tell you we need the help? This is how it works. It takes it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of meetings. It takes a lot of conversations to make a change. And from, by all accounts, from other people in other industries who look at the work that we've done, are always impressed at how quickly and how much we've accomplished. And that's been because of the people that are sitting here today. And we're lucky that we have all of these people.
Well, and because of you, Sandra, and you know, in fairness, Canada might have been known for teaching in 1850, but we probably didn't get a union until, I don't know, what, 1910 or something. So it takes, who knows how long it takes.
Absolutely.
It could have been 1800 they were teaching since.
Yeah, and you know, it's all systemic. It's all based in history. Like there's always a reason why things are the way that they are, and we just weren't at the table in the 1950s when you know, the Canada Council was formed. It was because there was a, I can't even remember what they did. What's it called? Anyways, it was like a, oh my God, I can't think of the name of what they did. They did a review of the arts and culture sector. And out of it came the National Library of Canada, the Canada Council for the Arts, and you know, and then all of a sudden, poets and novelists could get funding. And the reason why we have people like you know, authors like what's her name, Margaret Atwood, are because of that initial funding that started to happen in the 1950s. Well, comedy was not there. Comedy was never part of that conversation, and only started to be part of the conversation in 2016. You know, that's a long time. So anyways, we had another question, I see. What is it? Further to Sandra's point about lobbying, what is the climate right now in terms of recognition in the different levels of Parliament? With COVID being the big draw on resources, we're still being recognized as we were with the great work from before. Are we still being recognized? Well, I think
the fact that sorry, if you don't, I'll just jump in there. I think the fact that Sandra was invited to the conversation with the minister is evidence that we're being heard.
Yeah.
And I think being heard is the first step. They know we're here. And you know, as Sandra leaves and Monty takes up the mantle for leading the group, we're going to continue that work. My personal commitment is to the government piece, to continue you know, pushing that boulder up a hill. And once it's up, I'm done. That's it. I'll be quite pleased. Leave that.
Yeah, I think we're closer than ever. I mean, this is why, for me, though, the export strategy was the piece that I, you know, felt most passionate about, because this is something I've been pitching to the Department of Heritage for a couple of years now, which is like, you know, let's forget the United States. It's too complicated to go there, and it might potentially only get worse. So what we need as Canadian creators is to be exported around the world. And they responded so favorably to it because, I mean, there's nothing, you know, there's no greater way to export Canadian culture and identity than through comedy, you know, because it's, you know, I mean, maybe specifically stand-up is probably the easiest one because, you know, somebody shows up, what do they need? A microphone. And so I feel like I've always had a vision about this. You know, somebody asked me, like, do you think you're psychic? I mean, I think everyone's psychic. But when it comes to this, everything that I've imagined has been coming true. And so I really see, like, the future is, there's going to be more for us, but it's up to us. That's it. I think we're done. We're at 8:29.
Well, before we go, I think we should thank the people that are donating right now, like Lars and Daniel, and we appreciate that.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Thank you.
We need to raise $30,000 at the very least.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Good night.
At the very least, we need $30,000 to continue.
We're going to stay on the
Very
air
much
till we
appreciated.
get that needle up to 30,000. We got the energy. Do you have the energy?
You want this to happen? You can make it happen right now by calling 1-800.
We're going live from Buffalo.
Yeah. This is so cool.
Standing by,
Anyways,
live.
you know what?
Live. Standing
I
by.
want to say thank you again to this board. And I love this community. I always have. Like I never understood community until I became a comedian. And I'm so grateful for all of the love and the support and the laughter that we've shared together, and that this thing can only grow and be better and bigger and more respectful and more fair. It's in the stars. I've been your president. Thank you.
Thank you to you, Sandra. Thank you.
I want to say thank you to Sandra for bringing me on board. Thank you for calling me and asking me to come on this ride with you, because seriously, it's been amazing, and I'm not off until we're hitting the rocket stars, man. Over my dead body will CASC die, and I say that.
I remember
for sure.
talking to
I'm very dedicated to the work that's been done. There's a lot of work. Yeah, there's a lot of work, and I know a lot of people may not see it, and you might think like, whatever, you guys just post things here now and then, but trust me, there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes, and all of it is for the benefit of the comedy industry. Like Monty said, it's not about the board, it's about comedians, and that's all of you guys. So thank you, and seriously, Monty, is blood at the top now, I'm on scene. Boom. That's all I gotta
I've got
say.
a military jacket ready to
Thanks,
go.
Joe. Oh, it's getting fitted up.
Viva la revolución!
Yes.
All
Thank
right.
you all so much. It's been awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Good?
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Signing off.
Don't drink and drive.
Ending. Never.